The sun was red, hanging low over the cracked sky of the outer colony world. Heat rose from the ground like steam. Smoke drifted from the burned buildings of the alien village. No wind, no voices, only silence. Darren, a human ex-soldier, walked slowly through the ruins. His armor was dusty, his steps heavy. He was not here for war. He just needed water, maybe food, maybe peace. But peace wasn't waiting. Suddenly, he heard it, a sound so sharp, so painful, it stopped him in his tracks. A scream. "Human, please, my—" "Mom won't breathe!" The voice was young, terrified, desperate. Darren's eyes snapped toward the sound. He ran, jumping over broken metal, ashes, and bones. The scream came again, closer this time. He reached a half-broken home, its roof fallen in, walls scorched. There, in the dust, was a small alien boy. Green skin, thin arms, covered in soot. His large silver eyes were full of tears. He was shaking a still body on the ground. "Please, wake up, Mom, wake up!" The boy saw Darren and ran to him. "You're human, you come from Death World, you fix things, you're strong, please do something!" Darren dropped to one knee. The woman, his mother, was lying face down. She wasn't breathing. Her chest didn't rise, her skin was too pale. Darren carefully turned her over. Her body was cold, her lips blue. The boy screamed louder. "You're supposed to help." Darren didn't speak, he didn't promise anything, he just moved. He pulled off his pack. Inside were old tools, wires, a solar charge, no alien medicine. But he had built machines in the middle of war zones before. Maybe he could do it again. He opened her collar and saw strange markings. 3 heart points. One still pulsed, very faint. The other 2 were still. She was dying, maybe already dead. But the boy's voice echoed in his ears. "Please." Darren searched fast. Her kind didn't breathe like humans. They used skin vents to draw in cool air, but her back was burned. The vents were blocked. He poured water on her back to cool the skin. Then he took an old wire coil, split it open, and wrapped it around a battery chip. He placed it near her heart. A shock system. "Please, don't." "Stop," the boy whispered. Darren looked at him. "What's your name?" "Kiru." "Okay, Kiru, hold this wire. Tight." Kiru's hands were shaking, but he obeyed. Darren adjusted the charge. "If we're lucky, this might wake her heart." He pressed the contact point. Beep. Nothing. He tried again. Beep. The mother's body twitched slightly, then still. Darren leaned in. Her pulse was there, faint, but real. Then her mouth opened. She gasped, her eyes fluttered, silver like her son's, glowing softly. Kiru cried out, hugging her neck. "Mom!" She coughed. Her voice was weak. "Kiru, you're safe." She looked up at Darren. "Who?" But she couldn't finish. She passed out again, this time breathing. Darren lifted her gently and carried her to a corner where the roof still gave shade. He laid her down on a soft blanket he kept in his kit. Kiru sat beside her, not letting go of her hand. You saved her." Darren sat back tired. "She's not out of danger, but she's breathing, that's something." Kiru looked at him like he was something more than a man. "They all ran away, the village leaders, the guards, no one stayed, just you. I was just passing through. But you stayed." Darren didn't know what to say. He had seen many wars. He had walked past many bodies. But the scream of a child had pulled something in him, something buried deep. He looked at the ruined homes, the empty streets, the still air. Kiru broke the silence. "Can we come with you?" Darren blinked. "What?" "You saved her. We have nothing now, nowhere to go. But you helped. You're strong. I want to be strong like you." Darren looked down. He remembered a time long ago, a small grave, a photo, a child he lost. He closed his eyes. What's your mother's name? Zarali. Darren stood. Then we move when she wakes. Until then, we stay. Together. And from that moment on, the man who came looking for silence became the guardian of a mother and her child, because he was the only one who answered a dying scream. Zarali's breathing was shallow. Her chest moved only slightly. Her skin was dry and pale green, and her eyes stayed closed. Darren sat beside her, carefully adjusting the wires and cooling cloths on her back. The boy Kiru watched every movement with wide, hopeful eyes. Is she dying again? Kiru whispered. Darren didn't look up. Not if I can help it. Hours had passed since the rescue. They were hidden in the shadow of the ruined building, but the heat still pressed down, and Zarali's body wasn't recovering fast enough. Darren ran a scanner over her chest. The result confused him. Her blood's not moving right, he said to himself. Kiru tilted his head. She has 3 hearts. I know, Darren replied. But 2 are still stopped. Kiru whispered. That's bad. It's not good. He scanned again and noticed something else. The scanner showed blue-green blood. Thicker than human blood. Moving slower. It wasn't clotting right. She's losing energy, Darren said, even while lying still. Zarali's people breathed through skin vents, tiny openings along the spine and neck. But those areas were burned, covered in ash and melted fabric. Her own body was suffocating her. Darren wiped the vents clean. He used cooling gel and repurposed a water circulator into a temporary skin breather. It pushed cool air along her back, helping oxygen reach her body. Kiru watched in awe. You're not a healer, the boy said, but you fix machines. Like her. Darren gave a tired smirk. She's not a machine. She's a fighter. He worked into the night, rotating batteries, changing filters, dripping electrolyte water onto her tongue drop by drop. At one point, her hand twitched. Darren leaned in. Zarali! Her lips moved, but no sound came. Still, it was enough for Kiru. She's coming back. Outside, distant engines roared in the sky. Darren looked up. Scavenger drones. Too far to worry, for now, but they would return. This place wasn't safe. By morning, Zarali opened her eyes. Just for a moment. She looked around slowly. She saw Darren sitting nearby. She saw Kiru, sleeping against Darren's arm, and her lips parted. He stayed? Darren leaned forward. You're okay. Just rest. Her fingers reached out, weakly, and brushed Kiru's face. You saved my world. Then she slept again. But this time, it was a healing sleep. Darren looked down at Kiru. The boy had fallen asleep with a smile. Darren gently moved him to a soft pack and stood up. He stepped outside. The village was quiet. Ashes still floated on the wind. But something was different now. He wasn't just passing through anymore. He had a reason to stay. By noon, Zarali could drink water slowly. She blinked often but didn't speak much. Her burns needed more time, and her skin was still cracked and raw. Darren made a light tent above them from metal and fabric scraps. He sat beside her. You should have been dead, he said simply. She blinked again. But your boy screamed so loud, even the dead would have heard him. A faint smile touched her lips. My son still believes in miracles. Darren replied. Maybe he found one. Kiru woke up and crawled to his mother's side. You're okay? He asked, voice shaking. Zarali raised her hand and touched his cheek. I am now. She looked at Darren. You didn't run. No. Why? Darren shrugged. Didn't want a kid to watch his mother die. Zarali stared at him, then closed her eyes. Humans are not like I was taught. The wind outside picked up. Smoke blew through the broken windows. Darren stepped out to look and saw something far off in the distance. Tracks. Fresh ones. Booted. Feet, big ones, more than one. Darren went back inside. He looked at Zarali, then Kiru. "It's time to move," he said. Zarali whispered, "I can't walk." Darren picked up a tool pack, threw it over his shoulder. "Then I'll carry you." Kiru asked, "Where will we go?" Darren looked out across the burning horizon. Somewhere no one screams alone. The sun beat down as Darren walked through the dusty hills, Zarali in his arms and Kiru close behind. She was lighter than he expected, too light. Her body still weak, her breaths slow but steady. The boy had insisted on helping, carrying the leftover wires and bottles, though they weighed him down. For hours, they moved in silence, until they reached the broken edge of another alien village. It was quiet, half abandoned, with cracked statues and crooked buildings made from soft stone and steel beams. Smoke from nearby fires drifted lazily in the wind. Darren stepped into the first open structure, an old storage hut. He laid Zarali down gently, gave her a water flask, then looked at Kiru. "Rest. You both need it." But Kiru didn't rest. He stared at Darren with big silver eyes and finally asked, "Why did you save her?" The question hit harder than it should have. Darren took a deep breath. He sat down against the wall, his armor creaking. "I don't know," he said at first. Kiru frowned. "You don't know? I mean, I didn't plan it." He looked out at the red sky. "I heard a scream, and I ran." Kiru tilted his head. "But she's alien. You're human. Everyone says humans don't care about outsiders." Darren chuckled. "Is that what they teach you?" "Yes," Kiru said seriously. "That humans are strong, cold, that they only protect their own." Darren picked up a metal screw and rolled it between his fingers. "I used to protect soldiers," he said. "Humans like me, friends, but one day I was too slow. I lost someone small, my daughter." Kiru's eyes widened. Darren didn't smile. "So when I saw you screaming for your mother, I guess I just couldn't lose another child." Kiru sat beside him now, quiet, and then he said softly, "Then I'm glad you heard me." Suddenly, voices echoed outside, rough, loud, angry. "Outsiders! Show yourself!" Darren grabbed his rifle and peeked through the cracks. A small group of alien guards, 4 of them, stood at the edge of the building. Their armor was rusted, weapons old but their expressions sharp. They weren't bounty hunters, they were local patrol. One of them pointed toward the hut. "That's human tech," another shouted. "Come out now or we open fire." Darren stepped outside slowly, both hands up. "I'm not looking for trouble," he said calmly. The leader stepped forward. "You brought her here," he spat. "Zarali Sareth. She was cast out by the elders. She is not welcome." Darren's jaw tightened. "She's barely alive. She should have stayed dead." Darren took a slow breath. "Say that again." The alien stepped closer. "You think we fear a human? You're alone." Darren didn't flinch. "I'm never alone when I'm doing the right thing." From inside, Kiru shouted, "He saved my mom." One of the guards growled, "The child speaks like a noble." "He is," Darren said. "And his mother's coming back from the edge because I helped, not you." The guards raised their weapons. But then, Zarali's voice cut through the air, weak, but clear. "He carries no weapon, but his name is heavier than yours." She stepped out, leaning on the doorframe. She looked like a ghost, but a royal ghost. The guards hesitated. Zarali's eyes narrowed. "Tell your council, if you won't protect us, don't stop the ones who do." The guards backed away, not because of fear, because of shame. That night, the 3 of them sat under a rusted roof. Zarali lay on a blanket, her body trembling but her eyes steady. She looked at Darren. "You could have walked away. I know. You could have let them take me." "I didn't." She touched Kiru's head gently. "And now he looks at you like you belong." Darren looked down at the boy curled beside him. I don't belong anywhere, Zarali whispered. You do now. The morning sky over the wasteland was soft orange. Wind swept through broken buildings. Inside the old storage hut, Zarali sat upright for the first time. She had not spoken much through the night, but now she stared quietly at the horizon. Darren handed her a warm drink made from boiled root and clean water. She took it with slow hands. Your strength's coming back, he said. Zarali nodded. Then, after a pause, she said the words Darren had waited days to hear. They left me to die. Darren leaned against the wall. Kiru, still asleep nearby, didn't stir. Zarali stared into the fire pit between them. After my mate was killed in the uprising, the High Blood Council stripped me of title, said a widow without power was a weakness to the name. They took our home, our credits, our voice, and when I begged to stay for my child, they branded me as unfit. Darren's jaw tightened. You did nothing wrong. Zarali looked at him, eyes burning. I was loyal. I bore a son. But to them I was just a symbol, a tool. She lowered her voice. I was still bleeding from childbirth when they dragged me off the SkyTrain, and I screamed. Darren was silent. He understood power. He had seen commanders abandon good soldiers, orders used as excuses for cruelty. But this was something darker. He stood up, walked to the doorway, and looked out at the dead hills. They know you're alive now, he said. That's a problem. Zarali nodded. They'll come, not to take me, not to help. They'll come to silence me. That afternoon, Darren worked on an old defense drone he found near a junkyard, while Kiru helped him pull out wires, attach a power cell, and bolt a targeting arm in place. Will it fight? The boy asked. Only if it has to, Darren replied. Kiru looked serious. Then we make it stronger. That night, Zarali sat beside Darren while Kiru slept between them. Her voice was quiet but sharp. You know they'll come for the boy. He nodded. He carries noble blood. Pure blood. He's the last link to their name. They'll want him as a puppet, or a trophy. And they'll want you gone. Zarali looked at him sideways. They'll offer peace, riches, safety. But only if I let them take him away and give you up. Darren was silent. Then he said, If they want to hurt you or your son, they'll have to go through me. Zarali stared. Her voice broke. Why? Because the last time I failed to protect someone small, I never forgave myself. The next morning, dust clouds formed in the west, fast-moving lights, not raiders, not locals, ships. Darren raised his binoculars. They're coming. Zarali stepped beside him, her spine straight. They wear robes now, they'll come smiling. Kiru held Darren's hand tightly. Will you let them take us? Darren looked down, then smiled. Let them try. Hours later, the noble convoy arrived. Sleek vehicles, decorated guards, banners of silver and blue. At the front stood a tall alien in layered robes. His voice was smooth, his face proud. Princess Zarali, he said. The council sends peace and invitation. Zarali stepped forward slowly. The guard bowed lightly. You have stirred unrest, the galaxy whispers. They say a castaway widow breathes again. You seem disappointed, she replied. The noble smiled tightly. Not disappointed, only surprised. Your strength is inconvenient. He glanced at Darren. And your companion, distasteful. Darren folded his arms. The noble's tone, sharpened, will restore your title, wealth, and offer Kiru a place among the new heirs. But only if you separate from the human. Zarali was quiet. Then she looked at Darren, at Kiru, and turned back to the nobles. I was loyal once. You left me to rot. She pointed to Darren. He gave me life. So no, I will not trade one jail for another. You don't get my child. You don't get my loyalty. And you don't get to choose who I love. Silence. Then the noble muttered, "You've made a mistake." Darren raised his rifle. "So have you." The fire had died down. The stars above were quiet, cold, and watching. In a small camp tucked into a canyon wall, Darren sat sharpening a blade. Zarali rested nearby, her head tilted toward the sky, her eyes reflecting starlight. And Kiru, the small alien boy, leaned against Darren's arm, silent but wide awake. They had been walking all day. Through heat, rocks, and memories neither of them spoke out loud. The noble convoy had left, but everyone knew they'd return with more than words next time. That's why Darren led them away, farther into the forgotten places. Kiru finally broke the silence. "Will you leave?" Darren looked down at him. "Why would I?" "Because people like you don't stay." Darren said nothing. Then Kiru asked the question without fear. "Can I call you father now?" The knife in Darren's hand stopped moving. That word struck, harder than any battle wound he'd ever taken. His throat tightened. He looked at the boy, too small, too thin, but brave beyond his years. "You really want that?" Kiru nodded. "You're the one who heard me, the only one who stayed." Zarali sat up now, her breath catching softly. Her eyes met Darren's. He looked at her. "Is that okay with you?" Zarali didn't speak at first. Then she nodded. "You've protected him like his own blood. You've protected me." She paused. "That makes you more than just a man passing through." Darren looked back at Kiru. He reached out, gently ruffling the boy's short hair. "All right. From now on, I'm your father." Kiru smiled, then quietly leaned into his side. Darren didn't move for a long time. He just sat there, letting the boy sleep on his shoulder. Later that night, Zarali sat beside him again. She didn't speak for a while, but when she did, her voice was low. "He's never asked anyone that before." Darren kept staring at the fire. "I didn't know if I deserved it." "You didn't need to." She looked up at the stars. "You earned it." In the morning they moved again, through narrow rock paths, through sandstorms, through silence and survival. They found an abandoned ranger station built into the rock, ancient tech, half-functioning, but hidden. Safe. At least for now. Darren fixed the solar panels. Zarali turned an old cargo container into a kitchen. Kiru discovered a rusted drone and cleaned it like a pet. For the first time, they weren't just hiding. They were building something. One day, while Darren checked the perimeter, Kiru followed him and asked, "Were you a father before?" Darren nodded slowly. "A long time ago." "What happened?" Darren stared at the horizon. "I made a promise. I couldn't keep it." "Did she die?" Darren nodded again. "She was small, like you." Kiru looked down. "That's why you ran to me. You heard me scream." Darren kneeled in front of him. "I couldn't save her, but I saved you. And I won't let anyone take you away." Inside the station, Zarali stitched a new cloak for Kiru using scraps of fabric Darren had found in an old locker. When Kiru returned that evening wearing it proudly, she smiled for the first time in weeks. A real smile. Not one born of survival, but of something like peace. As night fell, they sat together around a small fire pit. No nobles, no guards, no war. Just them. A former soldier, a broken princess, and a child reborn by love. Kiru looked up again. "Do we get to be a real family now?" Zarali touched his hand. "We already are." Darren didn't answer. He just reached out, pulled them both close, and held on. The canyon winds had grown quiet. Inside the old ranger station, Darren adjusted the shield generators while Zarali stood in the observation dome, watching the dust trail rise in the distance. They were coming again. Not raiders, not bounty hunters, but her own people. She felt it in her bones. Kiru stood beside Darren, holding a wrench too big for his hand. "Do we fight this time?" he asked. Darren looked at him. Not if we don't have to, he replied. But I won't let them take either of you. Zarali didn't speak. She just pressed her hand against the window. The last time her nobles came, they offered titles in exchange for chains. This time, it would be different. By midday, 3 royal transport crafts landed in the sand below. They were clean, shining, carried banners with the Sereth house crest, Zarali's old family symbol, and from the largest stepped out Ereth Sar, the cousin, who once ruled the estate after she was cast out. He was tall, calm, dressed in robes stitched with crystal thread. Zarali stepped forward before he spoke. I remember your voice, she said. You called me a cracked jewel. Ereth Sar smiled coldly. And yet here you are, still glowing. Darren stood behind her, arms crossed. Kiru hid behind his cloak, peeking carefully. Ereth Sar turned to Zarali. The council is ready. To make peace, he said. You and your son can return. We will restore your name. You'll be given an estate. Protection. And what's the cost? Zarali asked. Ereth's eyes flicked to Darren. The human must leave. He's not part of your kind. Zarali tilted her head. She stepped closer. You saw me dying in the dust. You walked away. You called my child a burden. She looked at Darren. He picked me up. He gave my child hope. He never asked for anything. She turned back to Ereth. You call him less than us, but he is more. Ereth's voice sharpened. He has no royal blood, no place in the archives. You think you can rule with a Death Worlder beside you? Zarali smiled. I don't want your place. I've built my own, with him. Ereth looked at Darren now. Then what do you want, human? Power? Position? You saved her. You've made your point. Darren stepped forward slowly. I want none of that. I want a life where she isn't hunted, where her son laughs, where I can sleep without a weapon beside me. He looked down at Kiru. I want to finish what I started when I heard his scream. Silence followed. Ereth turned to leave, but then stopped. He looked over his shoulder. You think this is the end of it? Zarali stepped beside Darren. It's the beginning, and if your council wants a queen who chose a human over your broken bloodlines, let them come see what strength really looks like. As Ereth entered his ship, he paused one last time, then did something no one expected. He bowed. Not deeply, but enough to her and to Darren, not because of law, because of truth. When the ships lifted into the sky, Kiru looked up. They're not going to hurt us anymore? Darren placed a hand on his head. No, because now, they understand who you belong to. Zarali reached for Darren's hand. And who I belong to. That night, under a purple sky, they sat together on the station roof, watching stars pass overhead. Darren, who once ran from his past. Zarali, who once begged for air, and Kiru, who once screamed into a broken world, now had a name, a home, a family, and even nobles had bowed to it. The ranger station sat quiet beneath twin moons. Wind brushed across the canyon. Somewhere in the shadows, an old defense drone hummed softly. Inside, the fire crackled low as the 3 survivors sat near its warmth. Zarali couldn't sleep. She hadn't spoken for hours, not because she was afraid, but because something inside her was changing. Not breaking. Healing. Kiru was already asleep, curled into Darren's side, a makeshift blanket over him. He breathed deeply now, no longer as a child afraid of waking, up alone, but as a son who knew someone would still be there when he opened his eyes. Darren glanced at Zarali. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly, then whispered, I never thought I'd live long enough to feel safe again. Darren didn't speak. He only offered her his silence, and the way his eyes never looked away. Zarali stood. She stepped to a box at the far corner of the room. Slowly, she opened it. Inside lay something wrapped in old silk. Darren watched with curiosity. She turned toward him, holding something in her hands, a small silver band carved with delicate alien symbols. It shimmered with faint blue light. "This was given to me on my naming day," she said, "before I was a mother, before I was cast out, before I was broken." She knelt in front of him. "In my culture, it is tradition to give this to the one we choose, not out of duty, but out of freedom." Darren's eyes widened. He slowly sat up straighter. "Zara Lee." She held out the ring. "I begged you once, not for love, not for honor, but to save my child. You answered not with words, but with your hands, your courage, your silence." She placed the ring into his palm. "Now, I ask again, not because I am desperate, but because I am finally whole. Take me, not as a concubine, not as a symbol, but as your partner, your bond, your wife." Darren stared at her. His breath caught. He had faced enemies with guns, beasts with claws, but never anything this strong, this pure. He closed his fingers around the ring and smiled. "You don't even have to ask. They didn't need an audience. No temples, no royal robes, just the fire, the stars, the sleeping child between them." Darren slipped the ring onto her finger. It glowed blue against her green skin. Zara Lee leaned forward and kissed him softly. It wasn't the kiss of a rescued woman. It was the kiss of a queen, finally claiming her throne. The next morning, Kiru woke to find them standing at the top of the canyon. Zara Lee held Darren's hand. Kiru blinked at them, then grinned. "Did you finally tell him?" Zara Lee chuckled. "Yes." Darren reached down and lifted the boy into his arms. "Your mom married me last night," he said. Kiru looked surprised, then nodded proudly. "Then you're really my dad now." "Yeah," Darren said, "and you're really my son." That day, Darren taught Kiru how to fix the station's old water recycler. Zara Lee repaired broken ceiling panels and organized supplies. The place started to feel less like a hiding spot and more like a home. Later, Darren set up a transmitter dish on the roof. Zara Lee watched, confused. "You want to send a message?" she asked. "No," he said. "I want to listen." She tilted her head. "Someday," he said, "someone else will scream for help, like you did, like Kiru did." He looked out at the stars. "I want to be the one who hears them." In the following weeks, word began to spread. The nobles never returned, but rumors did. Stories of a fallen princess who built a home in the rocks, of a child with royal blood now guarded by a human stronger than steel, and of a man from Earth who made aliens believe in kindness again. One evening, a caravan of travelers arrived at the station gates. Refugees, survivors, widows with children, broken ones. Zara Lee opened the gates without hesitation. They came with empty hands and left with water, food, safety, and stories. Kiru offered one of the kids his old scarf. Darren gave a young mother his extra jacket. When the travelers left, they carried a new story with them, a new legend, not about war, but about a family born from a scream and built on love. That night, Zara Lee leaned on Darren's shoulder. "You rebuilt me," she whispered. Darren kissed her forehead. "No," he said. "You rebuilt yourself. I just stood still long enough for you to rise." Zara Lee closed her eyes, and for the first time in her life, she didn't dream of palaces or fire or chains. She dreamed of a small home under twin moons, a sun laughing, and a man who heard her when no one else would.